Acknowledge that today is the beginning of Black History Month, and we honor our ancestors whose shoulders we stand upon and the legacy they left to this country. I also acknowledge the brutality that many of them suffered as enslaved people and during the Jim Crow era, and even now by slave masters, law enforcement, and other white supremacists. I also acknowledge that today is the funeral of Mr. Tyre Nichols, the young man murdered by law enforcement in Memphis after a routine traffic stop. And our hearts and prayers are with his family and the Memphis community today as they chart a path forward with justice and equity. So thank you all for being here on this first Sunday, not first Sunday, so much, I'm for preachers, it's always Sunday, this first day of February. And for our land acknowledgement, the Seattle Community Police Commission acknowledges that we are on the traditional land of the Coast Salish people, including the Muckleshoot, Suquamish, and Duwamish people, past and present. And it's with humility that we recognize how much we benefit from living on their land and water. The Seattle Community Police Commission honors these tribes, and we hope that this acknowledgement will encourage authentic relationship with urban Native people and all Coast Salish tribes. So I will now take attendance. Reverend Harriet Walden. Here. Good morning. Mary Ruffin.
Present.
Good morning. Asha Muhammad. Joseph Saya.
Here.
Good morning. Elena Santillan. Erica Newman. Tasha Johnson.
Good morning and present.
Good morning. Lejea Washington. Suzette Dickerson.
Present.
Good morning. Officer Mark Mullens.
Present.
Good morning.
Morning.
And Joel Merkel.
Good morning, present.
Good morning. Jeremy Wood. And Reverend Patricia Hunter is present. So we have a quorum.
That's it.
All the commissioners were sent a draft agenda, and I would be open to receiving a motion to accept the draft agenda.
Motion to accept.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Step away from the chair and I second that motion.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we accept the agenda as presented. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Abstentions, the motion's carried. Also, in our packet, we received the draft minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to receive the minutes?
I'll step away from the chair and so move.
Thank you. We have, it's been moved. Is there a second to receive the minutes? Thank you. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Opposed,
Aye.
no. Thank you. Opposed, no. Abstentions. The motion is carried. In our agenda, we have space for public comment. Logan, is there anyone signed up at this time to offer public comment?
If you'd like to make public comment, please raise your hand now as I transition my screen to the timer. All right. Castile, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead and start whenever you'd like.
Yes, my name is Castile Hightower. In 2004, my brother Herbert Hightower Jr. was shot and killed by Seattle Police Department that he is still on, actually, while he was experiencing a mental health crisis. I found it extremely disingenuous when you all pinned the letter to Tyre Nichols' family, but you did not pin one to John V. Candula's family. You did not pin one to Terry Caver's family. You did not pin one to the gentleman that was killed in January of last year. You didn't even bother mentioning his name until recently, almost over a year later. You didn't even mention John V's name for a week until after her murder. And you used a photo that didn't even seem like it was from your own, but taken from other protesters who were demanding police accountability, something that you refused to do. I've seen in meeting after meeting your open hostility towards impacted families, which causes further harm, while expecting us to believe that you genuinely sympathize with us. You're often hostile to criticism and closed off to open, honest, and transparent conversation that you can't control, gaslight, or dismiss. You do so in forms of continuing to act as if you have no understanding of what we're talking about, even though we continue to say it over and over again. After expressing my concerns, instead of asking me to come and talk about those concerns, you expected me to talk about my trauma. After you've disrespected me, you've allowed space for business, but now impacted families or victims. You continue to undermine victim-centered programs such as the Affected Persons Program by way of the appeal system that you refused to create for over 5 years. You continue to allow the SPD to use you as a platform for recruitment, wellness services for cops and families, or refusing to listen to victims that in your own communities that they have harmed. I'm tired of the grandstanding. If you're all as committed as you say you are, in whatever pin letter you posted and then deleted, make a difference in the communities you serve, the immediate communities, the Seattle community, and stop worrying about optics and start caring about the communities and your decisions that you are directly impacting. Shame. Shameful.
Oh. All right, Howard, are you able to hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Good morning.
Great, good morning. Okay, good morning. Today, the CPC will discuss writing a letter to the SPD regarding Janavi Kandula, who was struck and killed by a speeding Seattle police officer last week, and also writing a letter of support to the Memphis community. Letters, and maybe thoughts and prayers. As pathetic as it is still far more than you have offered other victims of police violence in Seattle. A year ago in January, a man running naked on Beacon Hill, experiencing a severe behavioral health crisis, was chased by the Seattle police, had a police dog set upon him, attacking his naked crotch, and was then shot to death by the SPD. His name has still not been publicly released. The CPC has shown such a lack of concern for this man's death that you have failed to make his name public and then shamelessly tried to justify it by blaming the family. You still haven't revealed and discussed the outcome of any investigation, and we still have no accountability or transparency for this police murder, and no letters. What could possibly account for the lack of empathy and action for the police killing in 2022, but such public and proactive action around the killing of Janavi? Is it that Janavi is deemed innocent, but a man in behavioral health crisis is deemed guilty of bringing about his own murder? Is it that the CPC is so wedded to the belief that we have a functioning police accountability system that, with perfect circular reasoning, you deem the killing, quote, lawful and proper, as our accountability system has for the 5 nearly identical cases in just the last 4 years, and as it has done with all police killings? Is it because your moral compass is not oriented towards truth, but rather towards media coverage and self-justification of $1 million plus budget? Or perhaps it is because, as I suggested at your last meeting, you have failed to say their names. As Kimberly Crenshaw stated in regards to the Say Their Names campaign, if you say the name, you're prompted to learn the story. And if you know the story, then you have a broader sense of all the ways Black bodies are made vulnerable to police violence, unquote. We need to build, through a city initiative, an accountability system providing full community control over police policy, investigations, and discipline.
Anne Marie, can you hear us?
Yes, and can you hear me?
That we can. Go ahead and start whenever.
Hi, this is Anne Marie Lowe. I'm a resident here of Capitol Hill, and thank you for allowing me 2 minutes. I have just a simple request. I would like to be able to read the minutes from the last meeting and see the agenda for the current meeting on the website, along with the information for this call. Thanks very much.
Matthew, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank
Go
you.
ahead and start.
Hello, my name is Matthew Minnick. I am a Seattle Human Rights Commissioner, and I just wanted to first share my frustration that myself and other commissioners who've been liaisons to your body have been asking for panelist access and the ability to participate in your meetings, and that still has not been fully provided. So if this is a body that truly wants to work with other commissions and in community, that's clearly not happening. But that's not the main reason why I'm speaking today. I first want to start off by saying you have still not issued a letter of condolence, a statement, or literally anything about Janavi Kandula's murder by a Seattle police officer, Kevin Austin Dave. And all you have done is call for calm and peaceful protests, but not justice for impacted families. And that's a theme with this body. That is why the Seattle Human Rights Commission is pursuing amicus, because we are not a mouthpiece for the mayor. We're not a mouthpiece for SPOG. You can sit here and say you care. You can say the same thing we hear week after week, but unless you actually demonstrate that with actions and stand up to the powers that have created this racist system, nothing is going to change. And there are people who have reached out to you, who want to work with you, who have tried, and it has become clear to me that you are interested in protecting the cops and not actually the community. And you've continued to undermine victim-centered programs. You've disrespected members of the public, those who've been impacted by police violence. And I've just come to the conclusion that this body is not interested in accountability. You're interested in preserving the status quo. You have not even started the appeals through OPA complaints. I mean, the list can go on. And this is something the Human Rights Commission, we are stepping in because you've shown you are incapable. And there needs to be justice. Roger Wright, Terry Caver, Herbert Hightower Jr., and that has not happened here. And it is just flat out disrespectful.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to make public comment at this time? Valerie, if you can hear us, go ahead and start whenever you would like.
Hi, my name is Valerie Schlorette. I have been attending or watching CPC meetings for many, many years. And I'm afraid I have to echo what the commenters, Matthew, Howard, and Castile had to say. I will just make this short today and say regarding the death of Janavi Kandula, who was only 23 years old and was in Seattle as a student. I mean, that is a parent's nightmare, but I think that we should really be aware that it's quite possible that this death was preventable. And if we had a robust police accountability system, maybe the police actions and choices and practice that ended up with an SPD officer killing this pedestrian while she was in a crosswalk, a marked crosswalk, wouldn't have happened. I'm very concerned that the investigation into this death may be very, very slow, and that public outrage may dissipate, and we may not really get the transparency and justice into this event that Janavi deserves, and that all the other victims of police actions and violence and bad practice deserve. Thank you.
Right. Last call for public comment. I do not see anybody else at this time.
Thank you, Logan. Thank you. Is there anyone that would like to respond to any of our public comment? Commissioner Jeremy Wood, I acknowledge that you are here in the meeting. I don't think you responded when we went through the attendance as well as Erica Newman.
Great, thank you, Reverend Hunter, and sorry, I'm getting over a COVID infection, so I was a little slow in joining. I want to thank those who gave public comment today, and especially reach out, and I'm sorry I didn't catch the name of the commissioner from the City Human Rights Commission. As a former chair of that commission, it's difficult for me to see our commissions at loggerheads, and I agree that there are some areas of overlap, and that the Human Rights Commission has an important voice there. I understand the commissioner mentioned working to get in touch with our commission. I don't know the status of all those communications, but I just want to put myself out there for that commissioner if they'd like to, through the CPC staff, get in touch with me. I'd be happy to speak further. And I'd love to hear insight that they might have on some of the areas within our purview. So just putting that out there.
Thank you.
I have a brief comment as well. This is Co-Chair Joel Merkel. I just want to echo Commissioner Wood's comments. Thank you for all the public comments. And then to Mr. Mitnick of Human Rights Commission, thank you for your comments. My invitation that I extended in the meeting in January for you to get in touch with me and we can meet and figure out how we can forge partnership forward remains open. I have not heard from anyone from the Human Rights Commission. If there are any communications with the staff, they have not reached back to me. But please, reach out to me. Let's find a time to meet and talk, and we can start meeting and collaborating. But the invitation remains open.
Thank you, Commissioner Merkel. Any other responses to our community input, public comment?
Can I just say that Elena is trying to get a link in to the meeting?
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other responses to public comments?
I'd like to make a response to
Yes, Officer Mullens.
Dr. Howard talking about the nude man that was running around on Beacon Hill. Dr. Howard did not elaborate or explain totally what happened with that incident. Yes, there was a person who was shot and killed fatally on that call. But what he failed to talk about was the fact that this suspect had a machete and that he lunged at officers with that machete and he killed the canine dog with the machete. So while always tragic that someone has passed away or died, I think he needs to tell the whole story about what happened in that call, on that call, because I was on that call. And it was very devastating on all points, on all sides. We had a suspect who was dead, and we had a police canine dog that was dead as a result.
Thank you, Officer Mullens. Commissioner Ruffin, did I see your hand?
You did. That was on accident.
Okay.
I wanted to say that I really appreciated the comments we received today, and I hope that we can take everything that we've heard into account moving forward in how we interact with the community.
Thank you.
Chairwoman Hunter, this is Commissioner Joseph. I also want to echo the sentiments around public comments, especially those that are from impacted families. Just know that me as a person, we are always extending sentiments of care, against victims of state violence and systemic violence. And so, I'm there with you guys, and and if there's any other support that we can offer as CPC for the victims of families, like I'm, my ears are open and my heart's open.
Thank you, Commissioner Saya.
Can I have a comment?
Yes, Reverend,
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the Washington State Coalition for Police Accountability is out for just really doing a lot of work around affected families. And I know Mothers is part of that organization. I mean, we're a part of that. And I think the CPC recently became a part of the Washington Coalition for Police Accountability. And they're really, really working statewide, not only for families here, but statewide for families who are affected by police violence with Leslie Cushman. And, they've sponsoring a lot of bills and actually working really hard to get accountability statewide. And it's a very good organization that a lot of affected families are involved with. Some affected families here in Seattle are also involved with that coalition.
thank you. Okay, well, we will move forward in our agenda, and we do appreciate those who have taken the time to come and offer their public comments, and we do thank you and we hear you. And we're moving forward to some updates, and we have the co-chair updates and Commissioner Merkel.
Good morning, thank you. Couple updates from the coach for the co-chairs. One, we just wanted to update you that we will, in response to, following a lot of the policy implications of what happened last week with the tragic death of Janavi Kandula, the CPC worked to draft some letters to Seattle Police Department and the Seattle Fire Department asking some critical questions about their policies related to emergency response. We asked the Seattle Police Department in a letter to detail for us the training and policies related to emergency response, and the Seattle Police Department's training manual related to emergency response. And specifically, I think, as we all know, there's a significant and very specific restrictions on police emergency response in the context of pursuing eluding vehicles. But when you look at the policy with respect to emergency response, there's comparatively much less detail. And so we were asking questions about why that is and how the officers are trained. Because, even in circumstances where you have a strong pedestrian infrastructure, operating vehicles outside normal traffic patterns is very dangerous. And so we are asking SPD to answer those questions for us. And I believe we're going to put those letters on the website if they're not already there. The letter to the Seattle Fire is kind of in the same vein. We've understood that there's a current policy that when there's a call for service related to an overdose, that Seattle Fire responds to, there is a simultaneous response with Seattle PD joining them in support, which we've understood was what occurred last Monday. And we're trying to understand how that policy came about, what was the policy rationale for it, what was Seattle Fire's experience that led them to advocate for that policy if they did. At any rate, that's the update from the co-chairs. We've sent those two letters. We're looking forward to what the responses are. We've also reached out to OIG and OPA, our two accountability partners under the accountability system. I understand they are also working on this. I understand there may be an OPA investigation already underway. And once that's completed, obviously the CPC will play its role in reviewing that in that outcome. So as far as co-chair updates, that's the update that I wanted to provide. I know there was another letter that I don't know if you want to talk about, Reverend Hunter.
The other letter was in support of the family of Tyre Nichols, whose funeral is today. Knowing that many of us in Seattle have been impacted by police violence, and we know a little bit of the pain of the community, and many know the particular pain of the family. And so as a commission, we just stand with the people of Phoenix, as in Memphis, as they go through these very challenging times. And so the letter went to the NAACP in Memphis. And I believe it will be published as well. So that's it. Thank you.
I don't have any additional co-chair updates at this time. So I think we can move into work group updates and staff department updates. I guess I'll go ahead and turn it over to our policy director, Polly, at this time.
Sure. So I've reached out to all of you that have been assigned to work groups, and I'm really looking forward to working with you on moving these things forward. This does include complaint and appeals. This is something that was brought up in the public comment. And so I really want to make sure that we understand what's happening with those work groups, and we are all working together to address those concerns. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and talk about, once again, the legislative agenda update. So this is for the commissioners, and this will eventually be posted on the website. Can everyone see this? Does that show up? Okay, so what I asked was for a vote on a specific bill. This is also a bill that's a priority of the Washington Coalition for Police Accountability about traffic safety, and a general discussion about how the commission wants to approach the vehicular pursuit bills. I misspoke in the document that I sent to you. There are now seven different bills on vehicular pursuit. So I'll start with talking about the traffic safety bill. So before I get started, as a reminder, the ordinance that creates the CPC charges us with actually engaging in the legislative process in addition to other things. So we're charged in the language to identify and advocate for reforms to state laws that enhance public trust and confidence in policing and the criminal justice system. So that's part of what we're doing here and why we continue to stay involved in the legislative process. So the first bill that I want to discuss is the traffic safety bill. So this is House Bill 1513 in the House and Senate Bill 5572 in the Senate. It's important to note that in the Senate, this bill is in the Transportation Committee, but it hasn't had a hearing yet. So this bill is particularly timely due to the recent revelations about the brutal killing of Tyre Nichols in Memphis, because that started with the traffic stop. But Seattle has also had an experience with this in 2018 when Seattle Police Department shot Ayosia Falatogo. And this also started with the traffic stop that was from a suspended license and improper lane change. So the current SPD policy that was developed in response to concerns related by the Office of the Inspector General for the need to deprioritize low-risk public safety violations. So current SPD policy, per directive number 22006, is that officers in SPD cannot conduct a stop as a primary violation for a missing front plate, although they can stop for a missing rear plate, license tabs not being properly displayed, or items hanging from the rear view mirror or windshield. They can stop for a full windshield obstruction or shattered windshield, and of course, moving violations. So what does the traffic safety bill do that's beyond that or different? It actually does quite a bit more. So the proposed bill from Representative Street is that officers cannot conduct a stop as a primary violation for any non-moving violation or a suspended and revoked license. And this is relevant to the 2018 case I just mentioned. And then a misdemeanor warrant other than a DUI, DV, or civil court order. So these are non-moving violations. These are things like tabs or a taillight out, something that is minor. If it's a very serious damage to a car, for example, a shattered windshield or bumpers missing, that would pose a danger to the occupants of the car or people around them, then officers under this proposed bill are allowed to make a stop. And there are other things that are part of the bill that are pretty important to consider. So this bill also places restrictions on consent searches. So only officers cannot request a consent search of the officer's passenger or the vehicle. They can't question anyone in the vehicle about anything other than the serious equipment failure or moving violation. So that's really important. If you think officers say something like, do you know why I stopped you? That would not be permitted under this bill. Before engaging in a consent search, officers must obtain written consent. And in the current version of the bill, that document would be in English and Spanish or be read to people, but it has to be written consent. And it would include, among other things, an explicit statement that they will not be punished for declining the search. So informing people more about what these searches would look like. There's also a lot of information collection in this bill. So for each stop, officers must submit a detailed report with 13 specific items. And the last thing is that there is a grant program, a little bit vaguely defined at this time, but I'm sure they're working on it, that would allow, that would support helping low-income people and drivers and operators of vehicles fix the things that cause these kind of stops. And the intention of this bill is to reduce interactions between police and people that often result in dangerous situations for them, as we've seen in Memphis and Seattle and across the country. So my hope from the commissioners here is to get a vote in favor or in opposition to this bill. Again, if you remember from last time, this helps us as the staff write analyses for the City Office of Intergovernmental Relations and helps us take a position. This is one where I don't, as a staff, want to take a position without a robust discussion amongst the commissioners and a vote on the commission's support for this bill.
I see Jeremy Wood has his hand up. You're on mute.
Callie, thank you so much for your summary of the bill. Can I trouble you to throw that slide up once more?
Okay, I had it. Just a moment.
Yeah, so I think that HB 1513 is certainly pushing in the right direction, and I certainly support it. My question, Callie, is whether the CPC is able to urge any further amendment, because having not read 1513, it certainly feels like it doesn't go far enough in terms of moving violations that don't necessarily create a safety risk. And your reference to the Falatogo case in particular makes me think of that. I know that case very well. I did some work around it. My recollection is that the out-of-state warrant on Mr. Falatogo was only discovered after the stop, after he had pulled into a parking lot. And as you noted, the initial reason for why he was pulled aside was this what you described as an illegal lane change. In working on that case, my conclusion was that there was nothing in the Seattle code or state law that prohibited his so-called illegal lane change. He had made he had shifted across multiple lanes, and that's the reason that was given for stopping him, which led to finding the warrant, which led to ultimately his murder. And so I'm very concerned that this, as written here, it would still seem to allow police to make stops for what in that case was not a violation of any municipal or state traffic restriction. And so all that is to say, I wonder if the CPC is in a position to support filed bills, but also push for any expansion or amendment.
Yes, we can. It's actually for the analyses that we do for Office of Intergovernmental Relations, there's often it's approve or support, oppose, but there's also support with amendments. And for, as I discussed in the last meeting, the sort of more minor bills, we've already put forward some where we're proposing some amendments to OER. But CPC can also do more direct advocacy if you want. For example, writing amendments to this bill, working with co-sponsors, going down to give the testimony either in Olympia or virtually. That's something that I can facilitate if you want to do something more direct beyond just the analyses that we write for OIR.
Okay, that sounds great. And
I'd love to work with you on that.
yeah, I'll volunteer. Let's be in touch about this bill.
Great.
Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate that. I will say that I have been a member and participating in the legislative advocacy work group. And I will say, at least in those meetings, we've been in support of this, but it's obviously up to the commission to vote. And I think, I mean, we welcome additional comments and thoughts on the traffic safety stop bill. Now is a great time to do that. But it is the hope that there will entertain a motion for the CPC to formally support these bills.
This is Commissioner Nicholson. What I would say is that, I understand that they would have it in English and Spanish, but then one thing that would concern me is all the individuals who of other languages. How do they, especially in intense situations like that, they can't translate well enough, knowing from my own mother's experience with the police recently. So how is there anything in there that states how they're going to handle other language speaking individuals when stopped? And especially when they're trying to give written consent, because they're not going to be able to, some of them will not be able to read, some of them may not, and also people who may be illiterate at that. So how do they plan to address those individuals? So that would be one of the amendments that I would want to see in there. But overall, I agree that it moves it in the right direction and, support the bill and things. I just think that it needs to go a little bit deeper in there.
I think so. Let me review the language really quickly in case anyone else has this question that's specific about this. So there is a form and it has the discussions, but here's where we're talking about. The form must be available at least in English and Spanish and explained orally to a person who's unable to read the form, using when necessary an interpreter from the District Communication Center language line or other agency resources. So I think that's certainly something that could be strengthened, and that's the kind of thing that we could absolutely request as an amendment or propose. Thank you for bringing that up.
I see Reverend Hunter.
Thank you. I just wanted to go on record as being very supportive of these traffic bills, and I'm happy to step away from the chair and put a motion on the floor that we move in support of these traffic safety bills.
Can I ask if you would hold the motion to allow Mark Mullens to offer his comment? I see his hand up.
So there can still be discussion.
Oh, okay. Discussion on the motion?
Well, after we have a second.
Okay. Is there a second on Reverend Hunter's motion to support traffic safety bill HB 1513 and SB 5572 related to traffic stops?
I'll step away from the chair and for the second.
There is a second. Is there discussion? I see Officer Mullens, your hand is up.
Yes. While we hurry into this decision, and I realize there's been a lot of people who have been working on this for a while. It seems like all of a sudden we want to get this done. Can someone tell me what the alternative is to horrible driving in Seattle? And I'm just going from my standpoint, driving in my private car on my way to work and back home, that I'm nearly almost in an accident almost every night because somebody's passing me at 100 miles an hour, or someone's doing an illegal lane change in front of me. What is the alternative if police officers are basically restricted in making traffic stops? What's the alternative? How do we fix the bad driving? Because honestly, what has happened since officers are not comfortable with making traffic stops anymore, the driving in the Seattle area has been horrific. And you could tell by the accidents, and you could tell by the road rage that has been occurring in Seattle. And that's it. That's all.
Polly, do you have an answer to Officer Mullens' questions related to?
Yes, yes, and this came up in the testimony that was on this bill earlier this week from other law enforcement agencies. So I just want to be completely clear, this is about non-moving violations, the ability to pull over on non-moving violations. So for moving violations, DUIs, people speeding, this bill does not restrict that. It just restricts what officers can do once the stop is already underway. So limiting the questioning to exactly why they were pulled over and not allowing consent searches and having other restrictions in that way. But moving violations absolutely can and would still be permitted under this bill.
Commissioner Wood.
Just a point of clarification on Reverend Hunter's motion. As I noted before, I support the bill. I have concerns that it doesn't go far enough. Would the motion, if passed, still allow allow for discussion of urging possible amendment?
Are you offering an amendment, Jeremy?
I guess I am. I guess I would be moving to support the substance of HB 1513, but allow the commission to continue discussing the possibility of supporting an amendment there too.
Is there a second to Jeremy's motion?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Is there any commissioner discussion on Jeremy's motion?
For me, it's just very vague. You want more meat to this, but I don't know what that looks like. So that's my concern, is that I don't know where that's going. So
yeah, no, I understand, and I haven't had the chance. I'm looking right now at the bill. My concern is that I believe that there are areas where it's important to limit the possibility for stops for moving violations as well, or at least to give some set terms to those, given that, as I noted, that was the ultimate, what led to the ultimate incident in the Felatogo case. So my hope is that we can support the bill as written, and discuss potentially encouraging an amendment that would set limitations on stops for moving violations as well.
Any other commissioners wish to discuss or comment on Jeremy's motion to amend?
I guess I just have to hop back in here, because I too have see the bad driving in Seattle. And if it's a moving violation, I think if an officer sees that, they ought to be able to pull somebody over. And so that's my hesitancy. If it's actually a moving violation, there are laws on how to drive for a reason. And I'd rather have somebody pulled over rather than have that individual kill somebody with their reckless driving.
Yeah, and my intention is not to suggest that the commission support an entire prohibition on stops for moving violations. In the Felatogo case, Mr. Felatogo had not committed a traffic violation. And so I don't know whether an amendment would require police to be able to identify an actual violation of municipal or state traffic law, or identify a moving violation that does put others at risk, to your point, Reverend Hunter. But providing those parameters, I think, would limit certain stops for I can't even say moving violations, because as I said, the fellow Togo case did not actually involve a violation. But for driving conduct that has led to tragic consequences.
Unless there's any more discussion, we can have a vote on Jeremy's amendment. I believe that's what's on the floor. Could you take the slide down? I can't see everyone. Let's see, how are we gonna do this? Everyone's on mute. If I could, if those who are in favor of Jeremy's amendment, please, if you're able to, well, let's try it this way. Raise your hand on Zoom so I can see who's in favor. Lejai Washington, Jeremy Wood, Alina Santillan, Suzette Dickerson, to Joseph Saya. So that's 5. And then Reverend Hunter, are you a no?
I'm a no.
Reverend Walden?
I'm a no.
Walden's a no. Erica Newman,
Yes.
you're a yes. Tasha Johnson,
No.
did I miss any commissioner?
Mark Mullens.
Mark Mullens,
No.
so far we have, I believe, 6 yeses and 4 nos. We have 11 commissioners here today. Let me just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, we have 12 commissioners here today, and we have 6 yeses, 4 nos, and the I will vote yes, and the motion passes. So that brings us to the original motion to support the original motion as amended to support the traffic safety bills in Olympia. And is there any more discussion on the motion as amended? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and call the vote again. I'll try and be a little more organized this time. You can go ahead and raise your hand for yes and keep them up if you support the motion to support these bills. So Jeremy Wood, yes. Alina Santillan, yes. Lejai Washington, yes. Reverend Hunter, yes. Suzette Dickerson, yes. Joseph Saya, yes. Tasha Johnson, yes. Mary Ruffin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes. Officer Mullens, how do you vote?
No.
No. Who am I missing?
Erica.
Erica Newman, how do you vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And Joseph.
Joe, I think, did I get Joseph Saya?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Reverend Suzette is a yes. Reverend Walden?
Yes.
Yes. I'm a yes. I think that's everyone. I have 11 yeses and 1 no. So the motion passes. The commission is in support of those bills as with Jeremy's motion, amended motion to go a little farther. Thank you for that discussion and for that vote.
Thank you very much, commissioners. That's very helpful. And please reach out to me on working on amendment language. That would be something that I would really enjoy doing. Okay, so let me share my screen again and talk about the last sort of general topic. This one is not as specific because this is, as you're probably noticing in the news, this is kind of a moving target. There are now 7 bills that are somehow related to this. Only 3 of them had hearings, the rest of them have not. So the various content of these bills is to make changes to what happened from engrossed House Bill 1054 in 2021 that made changes to pursuit policies along with a whole bunch of other things. But these the vehicular pursuit reform bills are focused on changes to a very small part of that bill from 2021. So in basic, what that did at that time was to say that a peace officer may not engage in vehicular pursuit unless there's probable cause, which was a change in the standard to believe that the person in the vehicle had committed or is committing a violent offense, sex offense, an escape offense, or DUI, and other things. And so the bills that are actually having hearings, again, you'll see some bills that are just not going to get heard because of who their sponsors are. These are the ones that are actually having hearings. The one that I'll talk about first is the one at the bottom of this screen, that's Senate Bill 5533 that had a hearing on Monday. And that was about developing a model policy for vehicular pursuits at the Criminal Justice Training Commission at the state level. This one had wide support from everyone, both sides, because it's clear that there needs to be a lot of discussion on what the best model for this would look like. The other bills that had hearings yesterday were a little bit different. House Bill 1586 was to establish a work group, which is kind of like developing a model policy. These might, as they go through the process, become more like each other. And then House Bill 1363 actually made direct changes to that language, changing probable cause to reasonable suspicion, more like it was before. So what I'm asking for from the commissioners is more of a general discussion about these bills and their meaning, because there's no specific bill that we know that anyone knows is going to advance, and this as a topic, this might not advance. From my best guess, I would guess the model policy bill is going to go forward, but there might actually be changes on this. So it's important at this stage to have a discussion from the commissioners about how us as staff should not just sign in, but do analyses for OIR, think about, reflect what your thinking is on these bills.
Thank you, Collie. And I will just say as a co-chair and a member of the Legislative Advocacy Committee, I'm very interested in this commission discussion. I know there was a lot of discussion back in 21 when this change in the law was made. I know that there's been a lot of discussion in the public about the impact of the law, and as Collie mentioned, there's a lot of activity in Olympia about it. I don't know if there is a specific bill that we can vote to support or oppose. So I don't know if there's a vote that makes sense, but I do think that discussion is super important, and I'm very eager to hear what other commissioners think about this topic. So
I need to step out for a few moments, so
sure. I'll go ahead and
okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Collie needs to step out, so I'll go ahead and hang on. So with that is who's controlling the meeting?
I am.
You are. Can you take down Bill? Because I just want to see who's raising their hand and wants to contribute to the discussion. Is there any commissioner that wishes to speak about this topic? Yes, thank you, Commissioner Wood.
Just a point of clarification. I agree that the bill raises a tough balance of issues. I don't think I'm the only lawyer that struggles to really understand the difference between PC and reasonable suspicion. I'd be especially interested in Officer Mullens' take on how officers would understand that difference in the field, and what practical difference that would make in the application of this bill.
Are you talking? You're talking about me, right? You want me to comment on it?
Yeah, I'd be curious your opinion, Officer Mullens. Yeah.
Well, generally, when a pursuit begins, there, yes, is usually definitely probable cause. Of course, there have been times in which officers have had inquired about why a car is driving off at a high rate of speed from them. That happens. That has happened in the past. Not so much anymore. Generally, if officers come over the air and announce that there is a possible suspect in front of us and is driving away fast, the vehicle matches the description of the suspect, he left the scene of a crime and is driving fast away from that officer, he will get on the radio and tell his sergeant that this is the case, and the sergeant will give him either permission to do it or terminate the pursuit.
Mhm.
And that's the way it's been conducted for many years, especially since DOJ has been.
Mhm.
So, yes, not so much PC, but probable cause. Yes.
Okay, thank you, officer. That's a very helpful background.
Is there any other commissioner that wishes to add comment or thoughts on the vehicle pursuit issue? Well, hearing none, what I would add is, I think as we all know, this is an issue that has a lot of public attention and has had a lot of media attention, a lot of public attention. This was something that the legislature was able to do in 2021, and there's been efforts to try and change or walk it back a little bit. And I think it makes sense for the CPC to engage on this issue. So I know this is a big issue. I would encourage everyone to think about it. And if there's thoughts that folks want to share, and if there's a position we want to take, then let's continue the conversation. Unless there's anything else on this topic, we can move forward with the agenda. All right. Well, we will move forward on the agenda. That brings us to department updates. We can check in. Is there anyone from City Council to offer an update from the City Council?
Yes.
Good morning. Good morning, Newell. Is there anything from City Council update for us?
Thank you, Chair Merkel. The next meeting of the Public Safety and Human Services Committee will be on February 14th. Currently, all council committees are working on the 2023 work plan. Councilor Herbold discussed that with one of the co-chairs, and I think next week we'll be reaching out to the co-chairs and staff with a draft work plan for their review and potential input. At the briefings meeting on Monday, a number of council members spoke to the death of Giovanni Kandula, and Councilor Herbold called for transparency for SPD's report and releasing information as to the public in consultation with the family as quickly as possible. And it's also her understanding, as the co-chair mentioned, that OPA has received a complaint from a member of the public and is investigating that. A number of council members also spoke to the horrible, brutal killing of Tyre Nichols, and Councilor Herbold thanked Chief Diaz for his initiative in 2021 for suspending traffic stops for some of the driving violations that don't threaten public safety, per the discussion earlier, with the understanding that those contacts can sometimes escalate, and for traffic stops there is significant racial disproportionality. So I think the only other thing was that she met earlier this week with the city's Office of Intergovernmental Relations and did speak to them about the traffic safety for all bill, and it's our understanding that Inspector General Judge spoke in support of it at a public hearing that was held at the state legislature. Thank you.
Thank you. And Katie, I see your hand is up. Can't hear you. Wait, now I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Are you okay if I do, I might be out of order. We're hiring a new staff who's coming on today, so it's a little chaotic, but I wanted to provide the quick OPA update.
Thank you,
if that's
please.
okay. And then I'll hop off. So as you stated, OPA has opened a case involving the vehicular homicide. It is 2023 OPA 0043 for those who are tracking, and that will move through the regular OPA process. As I mentioned, the reason I'm going to hop off is we're bringing in a new communications manager. She starts today. And so we'll be partnering with CPC. I already sent an email to a few folks to start building that relationship, but also to support OPA in its efforts to be more communicative and responsive to the public, working with our community engagement team. We're also bringing on an assistant general counsel and a new investigation supervisor. Those positions have been posted if folks are interested or know anyone who would want to join OPA. And we're just continuing with our process as we navigate through this. So those are the main cases. We're also, or updates, being involved in providing some of that legislative feedback from the OPA perspective as well, looking at similar bills and passing that on. So unless there are any questions, I will hop off, but thank you for letting me interrupt. I appreciate it. It's one of those days.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Is anyone from the mayor's office present that has an update? Hearing none, go to the monitoring team. See Mr. Ward is here. Mr. Ward? On mute, Mr. Ward.
Good morning.
Morning.
I believe that you are aware that at your next meeting, a member of the monitor team and Dr. Richard Rosenthal will be presenting to you aspects and the substance of the monitor team accountability assessment methodology. That's all I have from the monitor team. I do have a personal statement to make in my capacity as a citizen of this city. I want to express my rage and my sorrow at the circumstances surrounding and the passing of Tyre Nichols, and my sympathy to his family. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Thank you for the update and thank you for your comments. They're much appreciated. And we share in your comments. Is anyone from the Department of Justice here with an update?
Guys, unmute Matt Waldrop. He's from the U.S. Attorney's Office. He's on the attendees list.
Just promoted him to a panelist and he'll be speaking shortly.
Great, thank you.
No, thank you as well.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Sorry about that. No update from the department at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. We've already had an update from OPA. Anyone from OIG with an update?
Yeah, I can hop on. Dan here. Yeah, so we have a lot of things that are in progress right now. We're working through several of our audits. Youth Miranda rights is in field work. Our audit of leave administration is just a little bit more involved, and that's still in the planning phase. And our reoccurring 1412 audit, which is a follow-up of our 2018 work, is nearing completion. In addition to that, we have our surveillance body of work that we are on the verge of getting issued in the coming months. Several reports for individual technologies. There's 8 technologies in the first batch that we're hoping to push out in quick sequence in the coming months. There's the Sentinel event review. The final report is going to be, which focuses on fall of 2020, is going to be forthcoming in the next few weeks, we hope. And our policy unit's also been doing work on, as has been mentioned, on the bills that were discussed today, and is also looking at starting up work again on traffic stops. And those are the items that I have.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone from SPD available for an update?
Commissioner Merkel, are you able to hear me?
I am, yes.
Hi, this is Brian Maxey. I'm not a panelist at this point, but I guess I have audio capacity. Oh, hang on.
You appear to be a panelist. Hello?
He's coming back.
Okay.
Hi,
There you
sorry
are.
about that. I think the primary update that I have for SPD this week is that we launched a new technology called Spider Tech. This new technology provides greatly increased customer service to people that call 911 by giving text-based updates, giving them status updates on the call, on the arrival of the officer, and even into the investigation stage, whether the case has been closed, whether it's been referred, whether somebody's been arrested. Just a much more direct way to communicate status of interactions with the CSCC and the Seattle Police Department. This also includes a survey element, asking several discrete questions so that we can measure the level of satisfaction with the interactions with the Seattle Police Department. This has been online for a little over a week. We're getting pretty good responses so far, but we're going to be watching it. And as we get more responses, we will report out on what it is that we're seeing and let you know how it's going. But thank you.
Thank you. And with that, that brings us to the portion of our agenda relating to executive session. And just a reminder that at any time, from time to time, the CPC has the right to go into executive session. And the purpose of today's executive session is to discuss the performance of a public employee and potential litigation. All of the link to the executive session has been sent to each commissioner's email, I believe personal and city email. So at the end of the executive session, which we anticipate will last approximately, up to 30 minutes, no more. We will be adjourning at the end of the executive session. We will not be coming back to public session. So at this time, commissioners, please log off this Zoom and use the Zoom link that you were provided for the executive session. Thank you.
I would hope so.
Recording stopped.